Howdy folks, and welcome back to the Practical Microservices stream. In about a week, here we are. So, not much, just still working through support, dealing with the application layer, checking volume levels, make sure I'm not blowing out. Just all right, there we go. When we start to talk about the first one, have the mailing list. This we can write about. There. If you want to get into the site, you can check out. We have one little jump there. You go to build this site, and when you do Hugo, I can just show you that. Why not? It's not a big deal, but like here's today's article, and you put this front matter in here, put a date on it, and if you happen to run your build at a point in time earlier than the stated date, it doesn't get built into the output, which is didn't occur to me, and so I use a service called ConvertKit that this Hugo site plays. It generates an RSS feed, and I ConvertKit into that RSS feed, and it schedules it because I did this build prior to the Monday, but I published date. That's why there's a 1 day gap in there. So right, I want to fix that and so get the same numbers of this day, but I don't want to send out. So I think we can send it out as a digest containing 2. Sure that is Microservices.com. We do on the stream this week is looking more technology focused, whereas the prior week was a lot of in a business. What to do when you're waiting for but yeah, you can check it out on the website. Most of these things on it. All right, do that. So last time we were working on Flash, and that was as well. So let's jump back into it. I don't quite remember the state of things. So where were we with that? Maybe the Git status will give some indication like this. Did I push things? Client gem is started. Okay, what did we actually do? Made the gem spec. I think we had that before. I just hadn't committed it. But we added. Oh, it's hard to tell what's actually new here and what was just from before. I think we were working on how to get the command writer in place. Did we get that far? So we can just look at the code to determine that. So if we go to identity component command to register some stream. Okay, I see we're doing this TDD style, which is how I like to work. So there we go. So let's split that, and I like to have the test over to the right, because when you split things from your tree, it puts them on the left, and sometimes you have to obey more than one file sometimes. So where were we? Looks like, let's see the state of the test. So we test automated commands, register, and it is not being written to the command stream. So we are writing a message, but it's going to the wrong stream, which is kind of what we expected at this point. So These are registering identities, and we would want the identifiers to be stable. And we can see the trappings of that here, where we are going to choose an identity ID, and that is what we would want to pass to the call method on here, like so. So now if we run that, we should get an error that the signatures don't match. Wrong number of arguments. Great. Then we're going to answer the that will build us a command string name. So it will basically add a file to the string name that will build it. So for the other, let's say it's the same, which would be kind of we didn't actually flesh out any sort of message. And in fact, we don't even have an entity on the message class with regard to that. So then we come over to our messages and to our Let's open this one. And if we go to, I believe that would be up in the app. So this content by interface with ranks. It's something that was very but no, so we're just and this year so that is interesting. And it's the same idea. Remember, the idea is we don't have various facets, aspects of what makes up the aggregate concept of a user. But each of those facets would be identified by the user. So I think that was my reason for this. I would say if I were doing more consistent. Been mostly just porting it the consistent, which means once we make this change for say message that trace ID because it would the case scenario. Yeah, basically, if you want to have your own properties introduced into the metadata that are persisted on the message chain every time follow is called, you put those under properties in metadata rather than at the root. If for some reason you had some custom metadata properties that you wanted to put in, but you didn't want persisted with every call to follow, that would be local properties. So that would let you save some custom metadata on a message that won't get followed down to subsequent messages. I'm going to make a quick note because that little bit that we just talked about is probably worth pulling out into the extract. Just a note here, discussion. And how far that was fun to find here. All right, cool. So let us do all that. And I am going to call it identity ID. Really important. What did we call it in the aggregator? So if we go to Microservices UserCredentials aggregator, what are you expecting it to be? So if we go to the aggregator, to the handler, and this, it's saying user ID. So I think a few weeks ago when I made this decision, I stuck with user ID to stay true. I'm in that list. So we'll change it in the identity component. It just means that we'll have That's okay. None of this has been shipped. We don't have existing messages to worry about. But I want that consistency in naming. I think that is a slight bit of inconvenience of going and changing. So, carrying on, the other attributes that we need are email and password hash. So let's grab that bit of text over to our identity. Can figure out how to work Vim, we'll comment that after. So we would want email, a similar thing here. Register command dot email should be equal to email, and that doesn't exist, so we'll get a name error. There's no method error because that's not on the message. So let's put it on the message. Now we should get that name error. There it is. And if we come up here, we would just say something like email equals controls email.example. I don't know that exists. Apparently it does, and so the assertion is failed because we are not adding any error. So let's go ahead and do that. Of course, we need to pass it in, and again, this is the thing that has to come from the outside world. That's not optional. Now it's actually passed. Oh, it didn't. What happened? Missing keyword. Oh, right. We did not call it. Like so. Now it passes. Fantastic. Okay, and then the last one would be this password hash. So we can say test password hash do, and then email register command password hash should equal would we know what this is? Yes, because it's not the identity component that is stored, generating the password hash. That's being done in the application layer. Should it be that way? Yes, because it isn't that way. If the identity component were the thing actually hashing password, we would have to write the plain text password into the message string. So if that's the case, then we would just be like, oh, getting ahead of myself. Let's see the failure before we go do that. We should get method message class first. That's what we got. So let's go ahead and password hash. Password hash is very easy. I just didn't remember that's cool. I wonder that we just need to receive that to our class here. Pass it. Okay, so we now have this call method. Given an identity ID, an email, and a password hash, we'll write a command to register that identity to the application. Are there any kinds of tests that we're missing here? Is there a, I don't know, spectrum maybe that would be done here in this class. Yeah, it wouldn't be here in this class. That's something that the application layer can do. So in the blog, we queried the UserCredentials to see if it is did. We're sitting on that. We said we fix that. But there as a performance identity with that it hasn't happened yet, but it's like if you don't see it, you don't know that it hasn't already been used, that particular email address. But if you do see it, you know that it has. Kind of a thing. So anyway, I think this is all we need out of this component. But here's it's interesting. This run. This. Let's go. Need one of these. What we could put on here, we need to configure. If we were to look in, so that's our user. User credentials aggregator. User credentials. That's right. Look at that. Structure query side aggregation. So within our Rails controller, we would need instance and register. What we can do to get an instance of this class, then we would have a configured messaging Postgres, right? And that one gets its settings from a settings JSON file, which we could just put into the root of the Rails application, or we can change. There's an environment variable we use to change settings. But better still would be to just have a self.pull here, so that it would end up being a one-liner in the controller. So let's do that. We're going to just do a call here to have the ID and in the self.call, we would need to get an instance of our class. And so that would be passing those same parameters. So we would say instance passing identity ID, email, and password hash like so. That would require and then we want to say instance. Oh wait, no, the build wouldn't be the parameters. That's incorrect. It's constructed. So we could just do that. It's supposed to be like build, but that just looks weird to me. So let's pull it out into an instance variable named instance. It's not an instance variable. It's just a local one to the function. So with that in place, I think we'd be good to go. And we could test this if we docker compose rm-sf and docker compose. I'm guessing I don't have a docker compose file in here. Let's get one. We can put that in the center. We would have. Great. So with that in place, that looks good. Should I fix this Windows problem? It's a significant step since we started. Started. Okay, here we go. Let's close that. Isn't that what that means? I see. Start on the stream. So let's go ahead and run it. So I can drop down there. Commands register. Maybe I could call that and say pass in an identity ID. I could pass it in. So like message. Password hash like so. That didn't work either. What happened? Undefined method configure. Right, we didn't finish that. This probably should have a test. I don't like it. But I can at least make it. So let's do it. So let's go back to let's go identity client. No, the identity client. Is that a thing? Let's go on Ruby. Test interactive. Right, register. Uninitialized constant. Because the interactive init that's okay, so if we said then as well as the client namespace identity client. So did it load this file? Let's find out. Put hello. We see hello, it means it loaded that file. It did not. Did I let's close this test because we don't need it anymore. And open that interactive test again. Run it precisely. Identity is not a module. We're loading identity client. Let's put a hello in this file to make sure it's it is. Okay, so if that's the case, then it should be loading this one as well. We'll spell hello wrong there and see if we see it. Oh, I bet I know what it is. The interactive init is going to include the identity component, and in identity component there is something called identity, which is a class of right. It didn't say name error. It said. So what we would need to do here in our test is go to the root. Now that's true. It didn't. Identity is not a module. The identity client space. Identity client. I wonder if this is because we are running inside of the which would have included just the namespace here, so I wonder if yeah, because that would make it. Now, if we get rid of that. Email password hash equals controls password hash dot example. Wow, typing is such an important skill to have. Identity ID, pass that in, pass the email in, and the password hash like so. Why didn't that one turn blue? Don't know. So right here we need a figure. You're going to say messaging. Postgres. Right. You need to configure yourself Voice is muffled or super quiet. Whoa, that's not good. Voice seems in and out. Good question. Twitch today. Oh, I'm not signed in here. 1 second. Let me do some things. Now I should be able to chat. So if I'm talking now, can you hear it? Is this any better? Hopefully I fixed it. How about that? Is that better now? Music loud again. Yeah, I think I hit cancel instead of okay when I was changing the setting. Okay, hey, thanks for saying something. That stinks. That means I've been doing this for, 47 minutes or so, and the settings were off. Okay, well, my bad. I think the mic's a little hot as well because I see it peeking up into the red when I speak. Maybe that is better now. Now that's really quiet. Maybe I need to talk at a consistent volume. That would make things go better. Hey, SB Ditto, how's it going? I'm having an otherwise fine day, except for that issue. Thank you. We are just fleshing out the identity component. I got the... Good to hear you're doing all right. I got the command helper class written. It ended up simpler than what's in the account component because one, in the account component, there are two different command helpers. And so there's a base module that they each use. And so I think that made the code a little bit more complicated. And then I also don't have to deal with previous messages because this is going to be the first message in a flow. If for some reason there were some other flow that would result in registering an identity, we could modify the call here to take a previous message. But as it is right now, we don't have to. In the book, the identifier on the register command was just called user ID. I'm changing that to identity ID to match the naming convention that's in most event-tied stuff. We'll have to change that in the user credentials aggregator. But right now, just to have an interactive test to make sure that we can call this and have it work. And the last error we had was that the configure method wasn't in place, but it is there now. So hopefully this time this will run successfully. Looks like it did. So if we come over to the message store, we can see our message got written to identity command register, has no metadata. That's fine. And we see our hello example, the identity ID, and the password hash. So that's good. I would say then, I think that one's done now. So what did we change? Git diff. We added build, call, and configure. And there were two files, the Docker Compose and our interactive test. So let's go ahead and add all of that. Git commit, and now identity client is really done. The previous commit that we did today said that it was done. Now it's really done. All right, good. That means that we now have this command helper, and now that we have this call method on it, I think we could just use that from the Rails app to write a message to the message store. So we're still working through the Rails integration. So shifting back to the Rails app, we have our two amazing controllers here. Oh, I just thought about something that I don't like. Right, I was thinking from within Rails, blah, 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 there would be some other things, but we could do something like identity client. Come on, there we go, client register.call with an identity ID and email and a password hash. The trouble with that is if we bake that directly into the controller, then yeah, done. That's what it should have been. Dunner. If we put this straight into the controller, then that means even when the controller gets hit in test, it's going to like actually try to write it to the message store. I don't want to do that. I really want to find some way to use the right substitute so that the Rails controller test can happen. I believe it's called a request spec. No. I am completely going against. Am I? I'm not. Okay, never mind. It's an integration test. And I'm going to post to it. This, as of earlier today, I think ran without giving an error. And so the next part was, okay, so we need the identity client so that we can actually write a message to the message store. But I would really like it that if I ran this test, I'm not actually writing to the message store. Somehow I'm using a substitute, and then we can just say, hey, substitute, did you get the message called to you? Don't Rails tests expect to chat to DBs, so message to message store is expected? Possibly. And I may end up giving up and going that route. And this may be a thing where when you don't try to render unto Rails that which is Rails, you have a bad time. So I'm not going to deny that. But I don't have to like it. And I want to see if there's a way around it. Also, that control is going to give the same identifier every single time. And if we are actually writing to the database, we'd either need to clear the database between each test, which Rails does, doesn't it? So it won't matter that we're using the same ID. That's literally Rails orthodoxy on how to write tests. Oh, fine, let's try it. Let's see what happens. Is it Rails test integration? Well, oh, right. My server's not running. So let's see here. I do have a Docker Compose and it would run MessageDB. Great. So I started one up over here in the identity component. Let's close that one. And that will close faster if I close Table Plus. And let's just destroy that one so we don't have rogue containers sitting around. And then come back to the applications. And let's run it from here. Docker Compose. If I had $1 for every time I typed that, you'd probably say, hey, you should make an alias. But if I do an alias, then I forget what the underlying command is. And I don't want to do that. You know, the perils of automation. It's one of those. So let's try running that again. Oh, didn't like it. Database practical microservices development does not exist. Do I have to do a Rails DB create? Isn't that what create is supposed to do? Is it because this schemata thing runs first? Let me comment that out real quick. Let's see, that would be in config initializers, load the schemata, and we'll comment that out. And let's see if oh, that's surprising and unfortunate. So now where would this one, and here we go. We have no tables. Oh, that's a shame. Okay, so what did I just find out? If the database doesn't already exist, Rails DB create will try to run the initializer. I forgot the context of thing that I said. The user credentials aggregator provides a class method, module method for putting the aggregation target schema in place. And that's what this user credential schema client is. Okay, yeah. This thing. And the way that I'm leveraging it within the Rails app is via an initializer that will only run if we're in development or test. However, the Rails DB create task tries to run the initializer before it creates the database. So then when this goes to run, it says the database doesn't exist. That's unfortunate. I would have thought it would put the databases in place before it tries to run anything within. And there might be a perfectly good reason for that. That's just what my expectation was. It's starting to wonder if the way we did this at work is dangerous for this reason. But is there a way to see what all the Rails rake tasks are and what they depend on? I guess yes, down in the gems, which I'm not using because reasons. Where do my gems install? What sources? Gem paths in one of two places. So if I went Ruby's, no, I'm going to go gem. Let's try gem. Ruby 3.1.2 gems. What do you have? Do you have Rails in here? And if you do, is that even helpful? Because does Rails, is that where those rake tasks are defined? Is that the only file that's in there? No. That's the only file that's in there? Is it in the Rail ties? Possibly. Tasks. Don't see the DB ones in there, but what's in here? Trying to find where the DB create task is defined. That might be an active record, come to think of it. So if we came all the way back up here to active record lib Rails generators. No, it wouldn't be a generator. Is it an active record here? Is there a tasks? There is a tasks folder. And database tasks. So that is the one that I think I want here. I would really like to get this to work without having to redefine these tasks. That doesn't seem like the right approach. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for create. I think I'm looking for a def create. Def create. No, there's something else that would mark it as a rake task. Let's do this. CD, was it in gems? Ruby, gems, active record. And then we can just open this in a proper editor. And it was an active record, tasks, database tasks. So I think somewhere in here, register task. Great. Is there a separate one here? Is this not what gets invoked when we say For each raise, prepare all. These are the names of the rake tasks. I thought there was something where you were like task drop and then you declared the dependencies of it. Maybe there is. Maybe there's a tasks.rb file. Don't see one. Where is Rails DB create defined? Oh, that's neat. Someone asked that exact question. The database's rake file of the framework. Why do I feel like this is old? It's 2018, so maybe that's not that old. Active record rail ties databases.rake. So rail ties databases.rake. Here we go. So load config, and that's probably the thing that hits the initializers. Oh, this is not happy time. Is there a reset? Possibly. That would drop create migrate. I don't think that will avoid our problem, which is that the initializer is getting called before the database is in place. So what happens if we run Rails DB reset? I would expect to get the same error. Let me zoom that one in. Being accessed by other users. So that would be because we have this open. So let's try that again. Now that worked. All right, let's blow the whole thing away again. Right, and it doesn't work because now it hits the initializer. So if the database already existed, it can run reset. But if it didn't already exist, it can't. What happens if I run it a second time? Same problem. All right. Out of curiosity, is there a seed task? There is, but the database doesn't exist again, so it fails. All right, well, this is the new conundrum that we need to figure out. How do we get it so that on a fresh database with nothing in it, we can use the rake task to start to get the database into the proper shape? Because it tries to run all of the initializers before it does the create. So like bad ideas that are coming to mind, maybe they're not bad. Maybe they're the right ones. Is there some way in the initializer to know if we're running in the context of a rake task? If so, don't run this. That doesn't seem right. That seems too limiting. We could put begin rescue around this, because if it's not there, we just want to skip so that it can make it. But again, like if we were in a deployed scenario and for some reason the database wasn't there, we wouldn't want to just ignore that. That's rather important. Why does this work on a different project where we did the same thing? Maybe we doctored the rake task at the other place. Anyway, I'm out of time for today. This integration with Rails is difficult, and that's why we're figuring it out right now, because I think this is a question that really could use answering in the larger community. And so I guess I have to go back to the drawing board on this one. Thought we were pretty close here, but turns out we're not. I mean, we could just work around it and uncomment this or comment this out, get the database in place and make sure all of the client stuff works, but it's not satisfying. I want an answer. Have something out of band that something else triggers. Yeah, it's possible. I really would love to pull this off just using the standard Rails way of doing things. Now, when you start a new Rails app, being able to run Rails DB create would be part of a developer's flow. But maybe we just can't do it. If we just say we're going to do an event-tied migration or integration with Rails, run this other task to get going, maybe it comes to that. But does Rails have a hook to use? What do you mean by hook? Do you mean something that happens in the boot up sequence of a Rails app? That's a good question. That's a good question. Let's see. I only have like 2 minutes to look at this real quick. Create current, each current configuration, establish connection, create with the DB config. It doesn't look like it. Yeah, it looks like it just calls this database tasks create current. No, it's a fine idea. I'm not saying it was a bad one. What does schema do? You mean like the schema task? Is that over here? You can like dump the schema and stuff. Oh, I know why this worked on the other project I was doing this in. We weren't putting the view data inside the Rails database. And so the Docker Compose file that we had in place would start up a different instance of Postgres. And that Docker would be configured to create the, when you use the PG, sorry, let me show here. Then I really got to get back to work and stuff. But right, you can, when you start up a database inside of here, I think it's like PG database. If you name something like this, you can say like hello, and these are environment variables, so we wouldn't type them that way. And so now if I close this and start it, and then open table plus again, that would be this one. Oh, that didn't work as expected. Is there an underscore? Well, let's check the output. I really want this to work. So 1 second. PG data base environment variables. Well, that is the environment variable. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a way in your Docker Compose file to, when it springs the instance of PG to life, it will create a database with the name that you supply in the variable. And so in the other project, the view data is in a separate database from the Rails app. And so when that container springs to life, from how we have it worded in the Docker Compose, it creates a database with that name. And so that's why that schema part just worked. This may be an instance where render unto Rails that which is Rails. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So the fact of the matter is that an aggregated table is not owned by Rails. It's something outside the Rails application that the Rails application is able to read. Sure. And so maybe that's an argument for don't mess with the Rails database. If you're going to have a Rails app with a Rails database, handle that the way Rails would handle it. And just spin up a different database for it. I'm leaning very heavily towards that because I would really like this to just work with as many Railsisms as possible. And I'm fine with the database being spun up inside of a Docker container because that's not forcing a choice on anyone. If you wanted to run your own, if you wanted to run Postgres locally on your machine, okay, go ahead and do that. This is burning in my mind here. Postgres, Docker image. Neat. I spelled it wrong, but it still found the right place. Where do you set the database name? Postgres DB. There we go. That's what it is. You are right, SB Ditto, as so often you are. Postgres DB equals hello. Now let's go ahead and first of all, we'll close this so that it closes a lot faster. Now we can open Table Plus and there it is. There's hello. Okay, so if we were going to do that, then it would be what would it be? Hang on just one second. I don't think we need a separate. Let's just rename this view data DB real quick. And we already have a settings in here with the view database settings. And I've been putting this into practical microservices development as the database name, but what if instead we called it the view data DB? So that's the settings that the aggregator's code is going to use to put the schema in place. And so if we just say, no, you are using a different database for that, then we can run this. Let's open Table Plus again. Why didn't you like that? Oh, right, because the name of the database was incorrect. So let's edit the connection. And I have this going to, oh, wait, why didn't that? Maybe I just did it too soon. So we've got the view data database right there, which we can go to. Nothing in it yet, but now when we say Rails DB create, when it runs the initializer, it's not looking for the practical microservices development database anymore. It's looking for view data, which was in place because when we started the Docker container, we put it there. And now it's able to make the two Rails databases. There's our user credentials table. And now we can go to practical microservices development, which is the Rails controlled one, and it's there. The only thing I don't like about this is Rails won't know to clear this database out in test. Yes, we already have that one open. And so if a test actually, well, this is the view data database. This isn't the message store, is it? Oh yeah, it wouldn't know to clear out the message store either, I suppose. So we'll need to get random identifiers for the message if that's what we're going to do. We're going to write the messages that way. Still want to figure out a way to be able to use the substitute. But I don't know if I'm making sense here. Notes for self. I've got to get back to work. But hey, SB Ditto, thanks for stopping by, and everyone else who did too. And we'll catch you next time. Until then, happy coding.